As you well know, a rogue Soros prosecutor in Manhattan brought these phony charges against Donald Trump involving campaign and non-disclosure agreement. And rather than get into the weeds there, which we've done before, I want to talk about real campaign violations. And we talk about two tiers of justice. There is no justice, especially when it comes to Donald Trump. And I'm going to prove it to you. You ready? 1996 fundraising scandals bring stiff penalties. Los Angeles Times. Federal Election Commission disclosed that it has imposed a record-setting $719,000 in fines against participants in the 1996 Democratic Party fundraising scandals involving contributions from China, Korea, and other foreign sources. The FEC documents describe Democratic fundraisers who set specific prices for foreign nationals to make illegal campaign contributions in return for meetings with then-President Clinton, Vice President Al Gore, a Democratic financial vice chair, for example, and organizers would have to contribute a total of $100,000 in return for Gore's appearance at a Buddhist temple in Los Angeles. Those penalized include the Democrat National Committee, the Clinton-Gore campaign, the Buddhist temple, nearly 24 people and corporations acting as conduits for illegal contributions all agreed to pay, according to the documents. A total in fines would have been significantly higher, except that some of the corporations had folded and others were dummy operations with no assets, set up as conduits for money from China, Venezuela, Canada, and other foreign countries. Now, Clinton wasn't placed under criminal investigation for any of this. Janet Reno, the Attorney General, even though she had tossed a number of investigations to Ken Starr at the time, this is one she held back. And yet this was a beauty. The Communist Chinese military laundered millions of dollars into the Clinton campaign for president and the DNC. Can you imagine? No, but there's no non-disclosure agreement, so don't worry. Obama campaign fined big for hiding donors, keeping illegal donations. This is from U.S. News about 10 years ago. An FEC audit of Obama for America's 2008 records found the committee failed to disclose millions of dollars in contributions and dragged its feet in refunding millions more in excess contributions. The resulting fine, one of the largest ever handed down by the FEC, is the result of a failure to disclose or improperly disclose thousands of contributions to Obama for America during the then-Senator's 2008 presidential run, documents show. In addition to failing to report big donors and excess donations in a timely manner, the Obama campaign incorrectly dated the filings, dealing with $85 million in funds, the FEC claims. Wow. Was Obama ever under criminal investigation by a local prosecutor, let alone the feds? No. Must not have known anything about any of this. Here we have from Town Hall, Sarah Arnold. This just the other day. Obama received $30 million from CCP linked, that's the Communist Party of China, fugitive as Trump faces criminal prosecution as Democrats are politically targeting former President Trump for allegedly paying hush money and NDA. During the 2016 presidential election, Obama's illegal foreign influence operation is flying under the radar. Earlier this week, actor Leonardo DiCaprio testified in federal court that Malaysian financier Jai-Ho Low revealed his plans to donate up to $30 million to help Obama's 2012 re-election campaign. Did he? Is there a criminal investigation looking into this? Low allegedly recruited Prasarol Prasmiko, the founding member of the iconic 1990s hip-hop group The Fugees, to help funnel a large amount of money to Obama's re-election campaign. However, under U.S. federal election law, foreigners cannot donate to presidential campaigns. Wow. Any local prosecutors bring any case on it? No, don't think so. Politico. Federal campaign watchdog finds DNC Clinton campaign over dossier spending disclosure. Oh, my goodness. The FEC has agreed to a fine of over $100,000 against the Democrat National Committee and Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign over an investigation into alleged misreporting of spending related to the now infamous Steele dossier. Well, what happened? Well, allegedly that the party and campaign reported payments to the powerhouse Democratic law firm Perkins Coie as legal expenses, when in actuality some of the money was earmarked for paying Fusion GPS through Perkins Coie to conduct opposition research on Donald Trump. So they weren't supposed to put it as a legal expense. Anybody charge Hillary Clinton or the DNC criminally for that? No. You get what I'm saying? Even more, the New York Post. Chinese elite have paid some $31 million to Hunter and the Bidens. For those wondering why Joe Biden, Peter Schweitzer writes, is soft on China, consider this never-before-reported revelation. The Biden family has done 5 deals in China totaling some $31 million arranged by individuals with direct ties to Chinese intelligence, some reaching the very top of China's spy agency. Indeed, every known deal that the Biden family enjoyed with Beijing was reached courtesy of individuals with spy ties. And Joe Biden personally benefited from his family's foreign deals. So here we have all this foreign money flooding into the Clinton campaign, the Obama campaign. We have Joe Biden, who's bought and paid for by the communist Chinese, our number one enemy. And not a single criminal investigation at the local, state, or federal level of any of these people. And you know what's interesting? Donald Trump came into office as a multi-billionaire. Obama, Gore, the Bidens. Biden spent his whole life in government. Gore spent most of his life in government. Obama spent most of his life trying to overthrow the country. And yet, they're all now worth tens of millions. The Obamas are said to be worth over 100 million. Gore's said to be worth over 100 million. And the Bidens, during the 2-year break between being vice president and president, made many millions of dollars, and he has S corporations that he's never revealed their taxes. So why aren't their taxes being released? Remember, the Democrats wanted Donald Trump's taxes, they said, because they want to make sure that top officials are actually being handled properly by the IRS. What about ex-top officials? Trump's taxes were released like 2 weeks before the Democrats left office, so there was no legislative purpose, and even now there's no legislative purpose. So why don't they ask for the Obama tax returns and the Gore tax returns and the Biden S corporation returns? Don't you think that's important? I do. Now, I want to go on about criminality and to show you how Donald Trump, believe it or not, as president has been a choir boy. Did he say a choir boy? I said a choir boy. David Burnham, formerly of the New York Times, he wrote a great book a couple of decades ago called A Law Unto Itself. And he writes about Roosevelt that confidential government documents prove that Roosevelt and the officials around him did not hesitate to mobilize the IRS in efforts to destroy the careers of individuals they had decided were enemies. The records even show that on one occasion, an inquiry from Eleanor Roosevelt prompted Treasury Secretary Henry Morgenthau to order a tax investigation of a conservative newspaper publisher who'd become one of the Roosevelt administration's leading critics. Roosevelt unleashed the IRS against Andrew Mellon, who was Treasury Secretary during Coolidge administration and others. Probably the single most brazen display of FDR's administration's willingness to use the tax agency for political purposes was its attack on Andrew Mellon, the millionaire capitalist who served as Republican Secretary of Treasury from 1921 to 32. So he ordered his first director of the Criminal Investigation Division to go after him, and they went after him for years and years and years, criminally, civilly, and he was innocent. But that poor guy, Mellon, was harassed for years. Burnham explains Roosevelt was a driven man. He didn't hesitate to adopt questionable tactics to maintain his power. Roosevelt had understood that Huey Long represented a genuine political threat. What did he do? He unleashed the IRS against Huey Long and all of his surrogates. Huey Long was assassinated. That's what stopped the IRS from taking out Huey Long. Sounds a lot like Stalin, doesn't it? Sounds like it. Maybe it is. He also helped a loyal congressman from Texas. You may have heard of him by the name of Lyndon Johnson. He became a target of the IRS for failing to properly report income from his campaigns. And this went on for 18 months. FDR stepped in and stopped the investigation, killed the investigation, protected Johnson, who would go on as you know, to be a senator and then president. Kennedy administration was also notorious for misusing confidential IRS and FBI information and for targeting Martin Luther King as a spy by the FBI. Nudged by Kennedy and with the knowledge of Attorney General Robert Kennedy, they went after groups on the right, using the IRS as well. The abuses also reached into the FBI. Indeed, the FBI tracked virtually every move of Martin Luther King. The FBI began secretly tracking King's flights, watching his associates. 1963, a month before the March on Washington, Hoover filed a request with Robert Kennedy to tap King's and his associates' phones. Robert Kennedy approved it. This was done with John Kennedy's knowledge. Under Lyndon Johnson used the FBI, the IRS, and the CIA to go after civil rights groups that he didn't trust, to actually spy on the Democrat convention in Atlantic City to see what the Kennedys were saying about him. He sent a group of FBI agents there to monitor the anti-war groups and the civil rights groups, and Martin Luther King's phone in his hotel room was bugged as well. He even bugged Hubert Humphrey's phone to see what his vice president was saying on the campaign trail about the Vietnam War. So it's absolutely incredible what past presidents did and got away with. Under Obama, of course, there was no causal connection, but the IRS was used to go after Tea Party organizations that had been very hurtful to him in the 2010 election, you might recall. And, of course, the FBI was used during the Obama administration and Biden administration, Obama-Biden, to spy, I would argue, on the Trump campaign. Trump is a choir boy. Trump never did this stuff. Meanwhile, women were bringing in and out John Kennedy's office, an East German spy who they had to hustle out of the country, a mob boss's girlfriend, a 16-year-old intern. It's disgusting. And LBJ was even worse. The abuse of women and so forth in the Oval Office. So put things in context, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on in Manhattan and Atlanta. Ooh, Trump called and said, can you find some votes? That's perfectly legal. Or Trump and the documents. He didn't sell them. He didn't give them away. They were at Mar-a-Lago. They were under the protection of the Secret Service. And this outrageous attempt to tie him to violence on January 6th and to preventing the transfer, of one government to the next.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to LevinTV.com and subscribe now.